So I think the short-sightedness, I feel, short-sightedness, you see, if I gain something immediately, I don't care what others feeling. I think that's the problem. That's the problem. If I consume maximum way in the future generation, what consequences to future generation don't care. I think that's our mistake. Short-sighted and narrow-minded.
Forty of the world's most innovative thinkers were gathered to form the Synthesis Group, to travel to India to meet with the Dalai Lama to solve many of the world's problems.
People from different fields come together, talk, discuss, and frank discussions. They analyze the situation. That will be very, very useful and may find some sort of practical way or method or approach, way of approach to address these problems.
I first mentioned it to His Holiness 2 years ago. We talked about it at great length. I went to see Brian and Barbara and told them this, and Barbara says, let me organize it. She worked 18 hours a day. And Brian says, let me work on design. And so we kind of formed a committee among the three of us, and it developed from there.
The beginning, the pilgrimage to meet the Dalai Lama, to transform the world.
I'm a cosmochemist. I'm a professor of chemistry at the University of Illinois in Chicago, emeritus.
I'm a professional musician, classical musician, and writer.
I'm a professor at a small liberal arts college, and I teach comparative religion.
I'm a psychiatrist, human rights, family stuff.
And we have a very special group of people who think a lot about the world, about its future, about its past, about where we are in history, about the transitions we must make if we are going to survive.
Coming together and just sharing the work that we're doing and finding a common language. As the saying goes, we'll all be changed because of the contact. The work that we're already doing will be amplified because of us coming together for a moment of time and then going back into our work.
And here we are going through India with all its beauty and its squalor and its inexplicable mystery. And at the same time, you have all these people with this tremendous amount of experience sitting here. You have artists and poets and ministers and scientists and social artists. And they're meeting, many of them are meeting each other for the first time. And so the ferment is going on is tremendous. The whole train is like a womb, a cauldron of becoming as we go through Mahabharata, the great womb herself, Mother India. It's a sacred journey.
What exactly is going to happen? Well, we don't know. precisely, but that's part of it, you know, trying to kind of go into the dark together to try to come together with some creative and interesting ideas.
One of the people in the group here was with His Holiness in Chicago and told the story yesterday of when he left, and he said, I have to get back to Dharamsala because there's this important group of the synthesis group and they may have some solutions to some of the world's problems.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. You know, all the trauma of getting here, which really was a hard trip, somehow melts away as we arrive here. And the seriousness that the Dalai Lama is taking this meeting. Here we are on the high holy day of Tibetan Buddhism, and he's going to meet with us. I can imagine there may be a few 100,000 Tibetans who think he ought to be meeting with them, but the sense that he feels this is important as well as we feel it's important, just ignites the imagination.
My name is Brian Muldoon. This is the moment I've been waiting for. Here's the first thing that we think would be useful. What is the emerging paradigm or the leading edge of thought or practice in your field?
Synthesis. The transformation of separate ideas into a new and higher level of truth.
Basically, synthesis is finding the common ground between and among people who have different points of view. Human understanding and growth depends on contrast and struggle and tension. You have one point of view, and I have another, and we kind of have this conversation. And you begin to see the truth of my position, I begin to see the truth of your position, and we find a third position, which is the truth of both and something new.
You know, I don't think anything like this has ever been done. When Wayne and I made our little presentation to him, he said, I've had conversations one-on-one, I've had these conversations with people in a particular discipline, but the notion that we can create a field of awareness out of the synthesis that we can create ourselves, that's very exciting. Also extremely ambitious. Yes? I mean, I'm personally terrified about that. So let's find it, okay?
The leading edge is determining what mechanisms and what structures will lead to the financial prosperity of the rest of the globe.
Exactly.
Let's go back to a model where teachers are teachers, not where they're factory managers, where teachers are mentors, where teachers know
mentors and evocateurs, facilitators.
And role models.
Role models. And it should be the most important profession.
Absolutely.
Let's start the first question.
First question is obvious. There are two options: consciousness-based science and matter-based science. These are already.
Well, I'm not so sure yet. I agree with
I'm
you.
giving my opinion, of course.
No, that's fine. But why don't we all do that?
Yeah.
Each person
I'm
gets
just
a chance to
starting
do that.
So it seems like.
My name is Amit Goswami. I'm a quantum physicist. Have done a considerable amount of work in the integration of science and spirituality.
A science which allows.
This, however, is a very unique opportunity. As the worldview changes, and it surely will, we go about it in a smooth pattern. We go about it with a cooperation and a loving kindness kind of thing. avoid catastrophes.
So I think that we can all agree with this. Then,
Well, wait a minute. I want
my
to hear
opinion,
what
my
others have to
opinion,
say.
my opinion.
I'd like to
I
hear
said
what-
I think. I said I think we can all agree with this. And after that agreement happens, then what would be nice? Let's first see if we can agree with that. And after that, I would like to hear each one's perspective of that. And
I would also like to represent to him the quantum physics that I represent, which is that the interpretation of quantum physics is possible, where our intentions, conscious intentions, play the major role, downward causation. We create reality.
But then the details is where the group leader or whoever goes up there will have to speak. You will have your chance.
I'm not going to say. I just want to hear the others. That's all I'm asking you.
You will, but this is I'm not taking that long.
But,
Just
okay,
be patient.
You said it very beautifully. Okay. Now we'll rephrase you. Now we'll rephrase you.
But that's the way he also talks.
No problem. You're going to dominate this thing. And
No,
I'm not interfering.
Look, Fred, you are the one who's dominating.
I'm not dominating.
I
I'm
am
just asking. I want to hear what she has to say.
I
want
am.
to hear what he has to say.
Yes, that's
Without
right.
using
That's
your
right. But
words
you are
and
not
your
letting
view.
me talk at all.
Because you keep interrupting.
No, I'm not
people's
interrupting. He
presentation.
finished.
Okay, let's get Fred's version.
No, I don't. I want to hear
It's
your
your
version.
turn.
I'm interested
Well, I'm
in
on
other
biology. Let's get through with the physics first.
I feel that I have to be a little careful because there are so many brilliant minds here, and people need to be. These brilliant minds are like very thin-shelled eggs. They can crack easily, I think. I'm probably I'm including myself in this. This is not me versus them. I'm like them. I'm the same way. I know I seem like I'm arguing with them, but I really love him. It's not a question of that. And we're very egoic. And so we need to be very gentle with each other. We need to think of ourselves very gently and respect and honor each other.
I mean, as you know from the experience of traveling up here, all the preparation, some of you may have noticed we all have egos. And sometimes they behave well and sometimes they don't. Tomorrow we would really love it if they behave well. Okay? And we all know what that means. And you know, at the same time, that's easier said than done. Really very difficult. I know just in the process of being here, I've noticed my own acting up big time. So it happens for all of us. And so I hope we can be accepting and forgiving and at the same time honest with each other about that.
So we are starting well, and I'm sure we will end just as perfect as can be.
I had a Dalai Lama nightmare. I may be the only one who had a Dalai Lama nightmare. In my nightmare, the Dalai Lama is known for treating everyone as though he was his best friend. And in my nightmare, I was at the end of a line, and the Dalai Lama was hosting. And when he got to me, he said, yeah, nice to meet you, and off he went.
In 1959, the 14th Dalai Lama was forced to flee to India in exile after the Chinese invaded and occupied Tibet. The Dalai Lama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989 for his nonviolent efforts to resolve the Chinese occupation of Tibet peacefully. The Dalai Lama is considered the Buddha of compassion, and many believe that he reincarnates on Earth to help ease the suffering of the world.
Muy bien.
How many people? Besides the helper, some participants. 40.
great frame of mind. Who he is? He's a simple monk, as he says. You know, that's the thing, people need to listen to that, because that is who he is. You know, when I see His Holiness, yeah, I see the Dalai Lama, but I really don't see that office Dalai Lama. I see him as a person, do you know? I see the saint that he is. I see that incredible compassion that he has, and that total acceptance and love for me that he has, and that he has for everybody else. Because he is a manifestation of the divine, as we all are. And I just think he's able to connect with something in me that he sees that I don't see, that I'm going to be of use in some way. I don't know, you know. But it's a heart connection. And I've never been able to hide from him, and I have no desire to. Because when I walk into his presence, it's like being put under this huge 1,000-watt light, you know. And like all my pimples and warts are showing, you know, and he sees everything.
He calls himself a simple monk, but he is a special spiritual being that I have come across. As you know, I come from the Thai Buddhist tradition, and we have many, many holy people. But the Dalai Lama is not a person of holier than thou. He's just an ordinary monk, an ordinary person, a simple person, in many ways, very childish, childlike person. By his presence, it's a great contribution already.
Why I have interest in such a conference is each human being have the responsibility or moral responsibility to think about humanity, to think about the future of human being. So such is a conference. So that's why I'm rather excited to participate and to listen.
Synthesis is how things came to be and continue to become. Why opposites attract and come together, why opposites repel and seek annihilation, why we come together and why we fall apart. Synthesis is the agent of transformation underlying all religious and mystical experience, present in all disputes and conflicts, present in all revolutions and wars. Synthesis is the whisper of the Holy Spirit, the movement of the Tao, in which every contradiction leads to clarity, every darkness gives birth to light. Synthesis is the force of love in every corner of the known and at the heart of the unknown.
When you explained about synthesis, you made synthesis very big, very vast subject, right? I think that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I believe there should be two kinds of spirituality. One spirituality with religious faith, like my spirituality and the Christian brothers' spirituality. These spiritualities are with faith, isn't it? I feel there should be another kind of spirituality that is without any religious faith. Simply try to increase or preserve as a good part of human nature. Just a sense of sharing one another, sense of caring one another. No need any religious faith, no church, no need temple. I think each family has the potential to provide these basic human good values. But then if you ask what sort of practical, realistic, systematic plan, how to achieve, I have no answer. Just a zero. So I want to invite practical sort of method or the plan. That I think this is not my sort of interest. It is interest for everyone. We are not come here for making money or for making fame or just to make a nice statement. No. If you see this trend, presence of trend, just as thinking about power or money, things like that, then the weaker section always suffer. Result, more trouble in society. And also, I think, too much exploitation about the nature resources. That's also dangerous. And I think our concept, mainly I think in the industrialized nations, I think the concept about every year your sort of income must increase, as if you believe nature resources are limitless. Meantime, poor people, some other part of the world, their basic sort of requirement are not adequate. Some cases, starvation. So these are not only morally wrong, but practically also these are source of problem. I feel there are signs, whether in Japan or whether in America, in Europe, in many places, now more and more people begin to feel there is something wrong. We need some new sort of effort or new sort of, I think, way to go. So that is suppose, I think, the purpose of our conference, isn't it? Do you agree? Thank you very much. That's all. Thank you.
Everybody thinks of changing humanity, and nobody thinks of changing himself.
We're now going to move into a process called World Cafe. The World Cafe is an opportunity for us to use our natural instincts to sit and talk with friends in an informal way. The synthesizers will be sitting at a table. The witnesses will, about 4 witnesses per table, will sit around and hold that energy and listen into that conversation. You'll have a chance to change tables, and one person will remain at a table, other people will move, and we'll do several rounds.
In this little World Cafe scenario we just did, it did not feel like I was in one World Cafe. It felt like I was in parallel universe cafes. In our group, for example, we had a very clear, orderly structure. The witnesses were supposed to, I understood, hold the space. The synthesizers, the participants, were supposed to dialogue with each other, and that seemed to work. I went to the second table, and I noticed that some of the witnesses were saying things, and the so-called facilitator wasn't saying anything. And I kind of enjoyed myself with that. Well, this is free. I'll just blah, 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 blah. Then I went to the third table, and everybody there was despondent. Like I descended into the table in the World Hell Cafe.
What were the choices that were involved to have this hierarchical model where the participants are received in the inner sanctum, and the witnesses were not even initially going to be invited, and then there had to be some kind of talks and negotiations. So
the witnesses are being mistreated. Why don't I, why can I be doing this? And da-da-da this, da-da-da that.
The whole structure, the hierarchical structure of participant and witnesses who are mute here. But I'm sorry, we all come from certain experience, spiritualities, trainings, and we have something to say. Maybe the structure could have been created in a little way that could have incorporated. So that's an example. But how does this come? Where? Well, somebody speaks their experience.
I'm delighting in even the possibility that there might be a revolution in the witnesses, and that maybe we as synthesizers will be asked to become witnesses. So I'll clean toilets. I don't care.
I'm feeling sort of a little edge here, and so I need to kind of work with my own synthesis.
Oh, the main conflict that's going on now is a question of who's in the community. There were a number of participants invited to come to be the dialoguees or the discussants, and some of their friends or family members. We had to create a role, and that role was of a witness, and there's a movement afoot that everyone should be in it together.
And I joke that normally in leading a group on the second or third day there's open rebellion, and they say whatever your plans were, forget it because we're taking this over, which is a great breakthrough moment, really. But it happened instead on the first day, so we're ahead of schedule.
That just shows how advanced this group really is, because it didn't happen on the first day.
Good morning. So I would just like to handle a couple of matters first and let you know where we're going with the day today, to the extent we have any clue.
Synthesis, there is sort of potential to clash. These two sort of energy or two, how to say, two things, two opposed things, unify and then create some new energy or new idea.
What's our assignment?
We need to make a synthesis of what our date was. A synthesis state.
So mathematical, and you bring in strange units within the mathematics, like E and I, and the square root of infinity.
Can I have your attention? Now we're ready to reconfigure again. So, the triads, as we originally had those planned.
Take about half an hour for this. In about a half an hour, we'll ring the bell. We'll see how the discussion is going.
We're now going to give you another 10 to 15 minute period where the four of you at each of the table are going to work to come to a synthesis, an agreement.
What we discovered in 45 minutes, or however long this took, was that's enough time for chaos to descend, but not synthesis.
Well, Brother Wayne just came up and said, we're getting somewhere and you're annoying us. I'm sure he's... So he's out of the process, clearly. No, I know, but all right, here's where we're going.
Today, we're going to be taking our dialogue to the next level. What kinds of practical solutions to the world's problems infused with compassion can we offer up to the Dalai Lama so that he knows what we know, that he can use it in his work, and we can be infused by his wisdom in doing our work? I want to lay out what they are. And no.
Let's talk. This interjection, you're always saying something. We're bubbling here. It's just blocking the flow.
Then I'd like to just do a little compassion here and have some. I'm not feeling it, I'm afraid. And I just want to say something. I'm not feeling it. So I want to apologize to you. I'll take your feedback. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that strong. It's frustrating because there is something bubbling here. And every time that someone begins to bubble, you stop listening and you start going into this structure and this and that, and it just starts blocking the flow of what's popping up here. So let's now, if I may, just for a moment, say what I hear. the Dalai Lama wants. Each of us in this synthesis group are people with expert information about spirituality and artistic. We may not agree with each other. He wants to know what we know, and it's our job, in a compassionate way, and as fervently as we can, and as clearly as we can, to present what we know. Because he's gotten the other points of view. He's heard the other people talk to him. So what I'm saying is now it's time to give him what we, each of us, uniquely have. And forget this darn Hegelian structure. It just gets in the way. I don't think like you guys think. I'm not a business type. Okay? So that's why, and I may be angry and I may be this, but that's the way I am. There's compassion in everything I'm saying.
I'm a kind of a cosmic nudge, a magician, a trickster. Don't even think of me as intellectual content. I'm a cosmic entertainer. I'm not here to teach you anything about physics or nothing.
A lot has been stirred up, obviously, and it should be. That's what we're here for. We're here to be stirred up. Nobody came here, as far as I know, willing to walk out the same way we walked in. And the only way we're going to get to being different from how we were when we came in is to face the things that have come up for us as we go through this process.
The Tibetan people could very well be the lost tribe of Israel, just because of certain similarities in the way they do the things that I saw them do. Giving us prayer shawl taluses in Hebrew and Jewish religion, it's a talus. When I hear the prayers that are being recited, it sounds almost like Hebrew to me. I know it's not, but it sounds like that. And when I watch people praying, they're davening, just like they do at the wall. I can see them doing this motion. It's like watching yeshiva bookers. It's like watching kids that are studying to be bar mitzvah or something in a yeshiva school, where they're really trying to understand the nature of God. And so they have these fantastic arguments that are very heated, but always it's about God and what God's work is. According to history, there were 12 tribes of Israel, and I think only 11 finally showed up. One got lost. I'm not sure which one, but there was a lost tribe. Who knows where they went? And who knows what the original Judaism was like? It may be more like what the Tibetans are doing. Similarities always resonate with me. When I find them, I begin to see how much of a family we really are.
And I'd like to get very clear what our intention is with His Holiness. I don't know if our main purpose here is to talk personally and be seen with him, or to actually advance some of our very important work in the world.
I think that the fact that we're here and seeing the Dalai Lama more than once was a factor in everyone's choice to come. But then other things became added. So yes, I want to be there, but I'd like to also be heard by the Dalai Lama if possible. I'd like to at least look him in the eye, maybe shake his hand. I have a little gift for him. I have a prayer. I have a wish. I have a sick relative.
Sometimes people, some people rather sort of eager to find some my thought or my view, and then perhaps I think some unrealistic expectation. That is wrong. That is sometimes a little disturbed for me.
And I was thinking, so what's my fantasy? You know, I come here in service and humility, but my secret fantasy is the Dalai Lama will say, "Who is that? Oh, she looks like she has such great spirit," and I'll be singled out somehow, and I'll have a talk with the Dalai Lama. How much are we making him more a child of God, or whatever belief you want to say, more an embodiment of spirit than anyone else? Then we're also having to deal with the fact that he can only recognize and interact with a certain number of us.
I can see some of the solutions emerging of how we should proceed. We all came with the notion that we'll have an opportunity of directly presenting, not be represented by somebody, but directly presenting to the Dalai Lama. Some of us think that we really have done some good work in terms of some of the problems, otherwise we would not be invited here. And I, for example, think that quantum physics, as far as I'm concerned, solves one of the deepest problems of today, how to integrate science and spirituality. And I would like to say to the Dalai Lama directly the basic aspects of this integration in 2 or 3 sentences. I'm an intelligent man. I know that you are all intelligent. I'm not going to take up your time. You can count on me to finish, and you can ring 2 bells, 3 bells, however many bells you like. I'll finish within whatever time you allocate to me. But I would not like to be represented by somebody else. I want to say it to him myself. Now that's one thing. I think we should have an invalid principle, which is that everyone should get an opportunity to speak directly to the Dalai Lama. After that principle, every other principle comes. I like the idea of participation, dialoguing between each other, but show me the time. Where is the time?
We have 2 hours. Okay, we have 2 hours. That's what we have. Yes.
Okay. I'm not attached to speaking directly to His Holiness. I don't have to do that. Amit seems to want to speak directly to His Holiness. I'm willing to trust this group to make its decision as far as a group that can sit with His Holiness and dialogue. If Amit wants to speak to His Holiness, then let's give Amit 5 minutes to speak to His Holiness before everything begins. But I also want to support the idea that we can be just as powerful in this situation as witnesses, as observers, as supporters, without speaking verbally directly to His Holiness.
I think we can get to the close on this one in terms of time. We have. Yes, I'm gonna support that.
Can I finish, please? Yeah. I'd like a straw vote of how many people really are there. I mean, you all clapped your hands. Are there really people who don't want to speak to the Dalai Lama directly? No, I really want to know.
Okay. I'm in a frame then. Allow me to help. Allow me to help. We're doing lovely together. Let's see if we can close this. And this is it. I'm not going to ask anyone to make any commitments right now of whether you're going to talk or not talk. I would like to do a straw poll, though. How many of you would feel, okay, you feel it in your heart that you would not need to speak to the Dalai Lama? You don't have to commit. I'm not going to keep you to it. Okay, so that's about half the group. So we've created a lot of space for ourselves. Okay, very good. So we've got our way of being. Yes?
Remember that they raised their hands today, and therefore be very compassionate about others using the time and remain quiet tomorrow.
Here's in terms of being compassionate with each other. We have different worldview. We have a different paradigm working here. Let's just all, chill. And it seems like we've got a lot of space. So I'm not gonna say who has to speak and who doesn't have to speak and how much time you have. We've just created some space for that. Human beings plan. God laughs. That's the design. And if we hear him laughing, then we adjust the plan and then go through another cycle.
Where things get stuck or when people are arguing and fighting about, no, this is what I had planned, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and it's going to stay right there. It's much more interesting to say, as His Holiness does. For example, when Brother Wayne talks to him about God, he says, well, that's very interesting to me. I'd like to know more about it. Rather than saying, are you kidding? I'm a Buddhist and I'm the Dalai Lama. Do you think I'm really going to talk about God? He says, no, I'm very interested in that. What do you have to say? So that's why we're so happy to be here, because he exemplifies that.
Into the time upstairs where we were a smaller group, and I was sitting only about 6 feet from the Dalai Lama, and to experience his ability to listen was a wonderful part of this journey for me. And I felt when I had my time to speak, as I looked into his eyes, I felt I was entering into his soul. that the words I was speaking were becoming part of his knowledge, his experience. There's, of course, the intellectual content of what was said and the ideas, but for me, that experience is a gift.
On the one hand, I do believe he's the 14th reincarnation of some being, some divine being. I believe that story. But the other part of it is that he's become something for the rest of us, so that we all bring to him our best ideas. It's like when you come to the guru and you bring your best fruit, or you kill the fattened calf, or you do something, some offering to the divine. Here's this man who, if he just says boo about something, the whole world will hear it. So we're all offering our absolute best fruit, hoping that he'll bring our fruit, our fruit to the world.
His ability to distinguish himself as a person from the role and the pomp and circumstance of being His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so few of us are able to do that. We get all mixed up about ourselves in a role versus ourselves as a human being, and he doesn't get mixed up at all. He knows that difference, and you could just feel it. This sense of, isn't this funny? All these people are doing all these things, and here I am coming to you and loving being here and loving the fact that you're here.
One of the things he said to us yesterday, nothing special about Tibetans. Nothing special about us. We all have to work out our own development of those spiritual qualities. And out of each one of us working out our own development of those spiritual qualities in our own settings, we are going to be our Dalai Lamas. We're going to be the Dalai Lamas. All of the desire to make him the something special, I feel he sheds and listens only for, okay, what would truly be useful for me in this situation of being a kind of a pivot point in the world, maybe through merit, who knows why, but here I am. And so people listen, and I'm trying to, in the simplest way possible, say some things that may make a difference.
That's, to me, the thing the Dalai Lama does, is he says, we're all equal here. What I do, what I am, you can do. It is what you are. I can bring that. I won't be as good at it as he is, but I can step it up a bit.
Words are mere bubbles of water, but deeds are drops of gold.
this Tibetan saying, better idea come from hundreds of people, the damn brain not so smart, than one great thinker or great sort of intellectual person. So that's, I think, very true, very true. The answer must find or must come from collective effort.
Good morning, Your Holiness. Today is the day for which we all have been preparing so hard. We have been through up some mountains and down some valleys, because it turns out this art of practicing compassion is not so easy.
Your Holiness, 2 days ago in meditation, I received this idea. With the current interest in Tibet, with your popularity worldwide, we could very easily mount a campaign to ask people to not invest in companies that are doing business in China until a set of conditions are met. We also could have an international boycott on purchasing goods from China. That would not be that difficult to organize with the amount of support we have here. The first question that people will ask me if I go out and try to talk about this is, what does the Dalai Lama think of this idea? So I would like to have your feedback on this idea.
This is very, very complicated questions. As you know, I believe humanity is the topmost important. So when we talk about humanity, China, most populated nation, still condition very, very poor. So under that circumstances, some sort of action which harm on the Chinese economic development is not right. Another aspect, the preservation of Tibetan cultural heritage and Tibetan spirituality is a long run immense benefit for the Chinese people also. Not only 6 million Tibetan people. They inspired many difficulties and many sort of risks. The number is growing among the Chinese who are showing interest and also practicing Tibetan Buddhism. So the preservation of Tibetan Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhist culture, is the interest of the Chinese also, long run. But unfortunately, at the moment, the Chinese leaders do not understand that. I'm trying to find mutually agreeable solution with Chinese government. But now, 20 years passed, the Chinese government attitude now these days completely sort of negative. In some cases, unfortunately, value of truth is nothing. So they, as a last resort, some economy sort of little pressure here and there. Also, you see, seems some relevant for me as a Buddhist monk, and also always trying to promote basic interest of the humanity. So on that level, you see, sometimes it's difficult to support that idea. You see, my position little is difficult.
So do we have a cautious yes from you?
Khashyar. Kwa. President Chanzo, the Kaso, the 7 minutes Yawadi, Yawadi, Adama Kudus, Khashyar change the shape of Yawadi.
His Holiness feels that the discussion has shaped the idea fairly well.
I think. So it seems, I think, good.
So it seems.
You've made Brother Wayne very happy.
Maybe everyone should raise their hands if they're in favor of this. But since it concerns Tibet, His Holiness said he will not raise his hand.
Oh, so with clear explanation, then I think this is very good.
And he said, well, what do you all think? And he had this ridiculous moment of taking a vote with the Dalai Lama on the future of Tibet. Okay, what's the vote, okay? What are we voting for? Yes, no, yes, no, okay? And all hands went up, yeah.
Not harming Chinese people, or even, you see, one time, no, okay. Just a few explanations. The motivation is sincere, and the result will be mutual interest for everyone, isn't it?
Well, this is an issue that I'm sure we all will carry on.
But again, now, main purpose of our meeting is not for Tibet issue. This is, you see, the promotion of human value, promotion of this, or human spirituality and peace. That's the main purpose. And byproduct, Tibetan case also very much related with that. So you see, this happened, yes.
These are Chinese shoes. I wanted to take them off today with His Holiness. And just like in India, when people threw the fabric that had come from Britain onto the fire, even though they had no money to replace that fabric. These shoes, they're cheap, and I don't live on much, so that's important to me. They're comfortable, they're convenient to get, go right to Kmart and get them. And I thought to myself, I can no longer do this. These are a symbol. And just to go in there with my shoes on, take my shoes off and offer them on the altar and walk out barefoot and say, look, we're going to have to give up stuff if this is going to change. But what we are going to gain on the other side of the ledger is moral authority, is a sense of internal peace, is a sense that our lives count, that we can live with ourselves, that we can go to sleep at night. and those are, really, when you talk to a real human being, those things are so much more important than the Chinese shoes.
So I just want to say one moment about what we're doing now. Yesterday was, I believe, and I think many of us believe, an historic moment and an incredible opportunity. And that is around the issue of Tibet and with the proposal that Gordon and his colleagues made. Because Tibet, if we can be a little ambitious at the moment, is the first step.
Just a point of order on that, if I may. I heard the Dalai Lama say that he was concerned with all humanity.
Harry, excuse me, that's not a point of order. And so let's please be sensitive to the rules of discussion that we've already engaged in. Are we ready to be one community around this issue?
Don't agree. So I'm very sensitive to Americans attempting to solve the world's problems. And I don't necessarily feel that we're equipped to do that. We're dealing with histories. They go back thousands of years.
It is not strictly and exclusively about Tibet. Tibet is the symptom of the larger disease.
It's not easy to do. It can be very good. It can also lead to consequences that we can't predict.
I think what we're looking for right now is a confirmation that Tibet is the way to start the conversation, and we set a much larger context for it.
I'm feeling a little bit railroaded at the moment, and I think maybe a few other people do too. I heard something very profound from Nancy about the process of the witness group, from which I'm guessing that the witness group has gone further in their spiritual development in this conference than we synthesizers have. And the main point that I heard was that everybody went deeply into their own issues. We all have our Tibets. I have spent decades, quite a few of them by now, listening to Americans think up projects for people in other parts of the world without knowing anything about them. Tibet is an extremely complex issue. I think if we can't set up a situation where China and Tibet both win, that would not be a good thing in this present world. However, that project is about 10 times bigger than Tibet, isn't it? Are we as a group here going to take care of all the problems of the disenfranchised people in the world in the next 2 days, make a plan for doing that, or are we going to make a plan for working on our own Tibets in a way that connects us with each other in the process of discovering and working on our Tibets?
I feel that being in the presence of such a spiritual master and such a heart-open being, that I feel that we're missing something very vital if we don't, each of us individually, separately, learn what it means to have an open heart and to face, as Elizabeth so eloquently put it, the Tibet within each of us. Each of us have problems. I know I do. I'm rough with people. I'm egocentric. I'm a complete asshole. I'm totally obnoxious. I admit it to you, I make mistakes, I fall, I do a lot of dumb things. And I'm totally willing to surrender to whatever it needs to take, whatever we need to do to face the Tibet that I have in my heart, that I can get rid of. There's a world that you can radically affect, transform it in a matter of a nanosecond, and that is the world that is your own universe, your body, yourself. Please take this opportunity to open your heart. Don't think about we got to do it in a group, we got to do it together, we can't do it unless we have a whole thing. Just take it as a personal experience. I beg you. Take this opportunity. You have been given a blessing. You've been given a gift. Your gift was, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is not to try to transform the world outside of yourself. The gift you've been given is the opportunity to transform the heart within you. If I hear the Dalai Lama correctly, and I admit that I may not always hear things correctly, I heard him say to me, open your heart, Fred, open your heart. Everything he says, every time I hear it, he says, open your heart, Fred. That's all I can hear, open your heart.
You yourself must make the effort. The Buddhas are only teachers.
Aya vare bongelonga yamne günde bejungje shuye gambilo de shusa de mana sova de sho ndoje bunro chebun
Well, I'd like to say welcome to our meeting, but we're in your home now. So we have to sort of welcome ourselves. When we visited with His Holiness, Brother Wayne and I, last month, we said, because we're very positive thinkers, we said, well, surely by Wednesday afternoon, we'll have solved many of the world's problems. And we'll be ready to move on because we'll have gelled as a group, we'll have our strategy together, and we'll be able to move ahead. Well, we're not quite there because, frankly, the facilitators have been fired in the process. So that's why I'm standing so close to you for protection.
Any vision IP the protection BI.
And one day you might eliminate the protector also.
So I think you're safe.
I've always kind of worked around evil. You know, like there's always a way that you can work around evil and find the kind way, the spiritual way, the good-hearted way. But I'm having a sense that maybe there's a call to confront evil in our time, and maybe there's an evil that we are being negligent about, and I don't know what that is. And I was thinking today about, you know, there was always that question of, you know, the people who watched the trains go by with the Jews inside. And we all think we wouldn't have been that. We wouldn't have done that. But what trains are going by right now that we are just watching going by?
I think the spiritual breakthrough requires an engagement with the forces of greed and the forces of destruction. And so, you know, in our group, we just felt that the time, I think, has come to, in a way, come together in very intimate leadership from you. And we are ready. We want to form that kind. We want to put our energies to this work. And we hope you want to play that role, and we want to turn the exile of the Tibetan people into the new opportunity for the next millennium, so that being freed of leading Tibet alone, you can lead the world.
I'm deeply sympathetic with the need for action and the need for combining spirituality with action. I have a training in Jesuit spirituality, and in my church, the Catholic Church, there's a long history of social teaching. And I'm also sensitive to the gift that you bring to us as a moral authority and as an example. But I would like to propose to the group that we don't look to His Holiness, whom we revere, to lead us, but we lead ourselves. We take the inspiration. We have authenticity by virtue of the spirituality that bubbles up in our various traditions. And I think it would be a disservice both to His Holiness and to our own humanity to look to anybody else but within to develop the methods and practices to solve our problems.
Firstly, I believe main purpose of our gathering is long-term strategy. Not as a problem here and there. That is, we can't handle these things. Too many problems. And it's supposed to see these government, these politicians, they are supposed to see to solve these immediate problems, whether they can solve or not. As a result, nobody taking care about long-term, I think, strategy or interest. And meantime, many problems we are facing today, it's not just it's superficial causes, but there are deeper sort of causes. I think the crisis in late 20th century we are facing is due to negligence of previous century, of our previous generations. And look, America, Lord, your ancestors, yes, really, you should talking about democracy, liberty, freedom. But then time goes, when you see people, they face the reality, today's reality, then this concept is sometimes almost like outdated. In modern politics or geopolitical sort of field, there is no room of morality, no room of justice. So everything based or judged by the force. Physical force, that means military force, and the economic force. So there's very little room, value of justice and truth. That's why on global level, weaker nations always suffer. And within the nation, weaker section of the people always suffer. Every human activity is something necessary and something neutral. But then every human action is whether become constructive or destructive is depend on motivation. And I think some kind of spirit of or sense or spirit of one humanity. Humanity, consider humanity is topmost. My nation, my religion, my race. These are secondary. Often, you see, just opposite. My nation first, my religion first, humanity come later. I think that's the problem, isn't it? We are gathered here talking about this long-term strategy. How to prevent disease. Now, that's our task, isn't it? So I think that's our prime. Then byproduct, if we can express our concern or something to certain particular issue, of course, very good. Like the Tibetan issue, you see, you express your concern and you want something to do something, good. But I think our prime sort of aim is that not this specific, but main how to promote human basic value. So that I think now our main task. And then how to promote that? Firstly, individual ourselves must implement, and day and night, including our dream. And then within our own family and certain groups. And then I think another I think method like this gathering, from time to time, at different places, more discussions, and bring new people and discuss. And then eventually, yes, invite some politicians, some national leaders, or some people from the United Nations, or Secretary General of the United Nations, isn't it? And Secretary of NATO, I don't know. So in any case, you see, we can invite, but I don't think, you see, no need to set up some kind of organization. And at the worst, lead by Dalai Lama, I think, out of question. No. I want to remain simple Buddhist monk and as a contribution. And then media people, I think they make, when appropriate time comes, or appropriate circumstances, it's a clear presentation about, you see, concern of these basic human values. And I think, you see, worthwhile to show, yes, there is way, there is method and possibility to change our today's illness. There is a possibility to prevent these things. Our fundamental thing is we want happiness. We do not want to die. We do not want even mosquitoes' pain. I do not want. But sometimes I really find difficult, you see, dialogue with mosquito and my pain. So, mosquito, mentally, sometimes I feel, because let's give some blood. If that, you see, no malaria. If I'm sure, no malaria. Then, but you see, first mosquito come, sometimes I give some blood. Then second come, third come. That's difficult. Still difficult. But in any case, you see, I'm practicing. You see, try to help other people, try to give some comfort to others as much as I can. I forgot what I'm saying. Mosquito take my idea. So, as ultimately, you see, thing is, we want happiness. We do not want suffering. Everybody, any sentient being. Now we are actually creating more unnecessary sufferings. I think very important to make clear to public. We are not talking about religion. If we have more compassion, God will please. We are not talking that. As a Buddhist, if we practice compassion, Buddha will support us. I'm not talking that. if we are a more compassionate person, I get more benefit. I will be more happier person. That's the point. Here, I think one check, one is because of $1 million. But here, no peace. That $1 million will not bring inner peace, happiness. More frustration. This money bring more frustration, more suspicion, more anxiety, or sometimes more jealous then. So inner peace is the ultimate source of happiness, joyfulness. So I think people do not understand that. Isn't it? That's my point. So that's my response.
Renaissance, a new birth.
Which country? What country? India. From where? Which state? Oh. How long is it? Huh? Last year.
Holiness, this is dedicated to you with admiration, in spite of the fact that admiration is a Buddhist sin. This is my wife and myself. Thank you.
This is my book, Integrating Science and Spirituality, using quantum physics.
Thank you. You know, I have a friend who's an astrologer in Ithaca, New York, and I asked him what it was going to be like to come here, and he said, well, what are you trying to do? And I explained the whole notion of synthesis in this illustrious body of people, and he said, no, that's not why you're there. He said, why you're there is that sometime toward the end of this, the Dalai Lama is going to sit you down, all of you down, and lecture you and get you out of your egos. And for me, that happened yesterday.
The goal to achieve some synthesis at times seemed vague and overly momentous because we come from so many different backgrounds and disciplines. And yet, there was a calming presence from His Holiness, and I think a very commonsensical presence too, because being Westerners and from America and very production-oriented, I think many of us thought, let's get a plan, let's get the solution and drive it home. And yet, he constantly reminded us, this is long-term.
If you want to manifest spiritual ideas like compassion in your mind, in your heart, from mind to the heart, it takes a quantum leap. What happened yesterday was very interesting because Dalai Lama is not unaware of this at all, but he has a better judgment of how this has to be implemented. So he said short term and long term, and my eyes opened. So it was a huge, huge eye-opener for me. And I really appreciated that.
So was it a quantum leap?
It was a quantum leap for me.
This is a seed. It's a seed, it's a beautiful seed. I'm confident that it will flower, and I have no way of knowing how that will be.
I know the facilitators took a lot of heat about the way they designed this, but it is a little act of humility to say, I think, in the last analysis, it finally did work. Today and yesterday, things came together in a nice way, and I feel like I'm leaving with joy. Certain things lined up for me and returned me to a way of being that I have been, but with a certain added vigor.
beginning of the conference, I read some words from Thomas Merton from an essay he wrote called About Results. He said, don't worry about the results, just do the right work. The results will happen. Maybe not in your lifetime, but they'll be there.
Je vais que ça